Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats.
You know, finding yourself in the modern age the digital age, as it were, is never an easy thing. And guess what? If you're within the sound of my voice, that must mean you're in the seats with once more. As always, my name is Dave Voigt, and I'm the host of this podcast, where we sit down with a wide ranging variety of entertainment industry professionals and we pick their brain about current projects, state of the industry, how they got started, and so very much more in a light and in a conversational fashion. And you know, if you like how we do things around here, I'm going to go out on a limb and assume that you do, because let's face it, you're listening right now. And if you are, hit that subscribe button. Give us the like, the old 5-star rating, and your podcast provider of choice. We're available pretty much everywhere. You can find us at Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Google, and plus we archive every single one of our episodes over at our In the Seats YouTube channel. So if you can give us a like and subscribe there as well, we would absolutely appreciate it. Also, don't hesitate to check us out on social media. We're on the Facebook, we're on the Twitter, we're on the Instagram, we're on the Letterboxd, we're on the TikTok, and God knows we're probably at a few other places too. At In the Seats for all sorts of fun updates. And finally, and I do dare say most importantly, please pay us a visit over at In the Seats, intheseats.ca, for all the latest and greatest from the world of film, television, basically the moving image at large. Because guess what? If we love to watch it and write about it and talk about it, we love it even more when you come by and read about it and listen about it. So do us that kindness and pay us a visit. On this episode, boys and girls, we are, well, it's not TIFF. There's more TIFF to come. We're still behind on that. That's fine. But we're talking a little regular stuff. There is a movie that is in theaters now, and it is a good one. It's a little bit of CanCon that we want to draw your attention to. It is called Golden Delicious, and it's the story of a basketball obsessed, young man who moves in across the street from Asian Canadian teen Jake, who is also finds himself trying out for the basketball team, and they're getting each other's attention, and they're discovering themselves in ways they never quite expected, and it's not to give you too much of a spoiler, but again, it's just one of the it's really a sweet, touching coming of age drama that plays out in a way that makes a lot of sense. And it's really well done and it's really well told. And it is in theaters now, so I do recommend you go check it out. But we had the unique pleasure of sitting down with the director of the film, the one and only Jason Karman, and asked him about sort of the development of the story, the casting, and just getting this all out there to the universe. But like I said, Golden Delicious is in theaters now across the country. I have limited locations, I'm pretty sure, but check your local listings. But first, enjoy our talk with the director of Golden Delicious, the one and only Jason Karman, because between you and me, it's a darn good one. But I mean, Jason, just to kick this off, man, I mean, just I want to say thank you again for the time and just congrats on the movie, man. I thought it was fantastic.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, I've been working on it for so long and talking about it for so long. I hope that I don't sound like a robot. So that's all.
Okay, well then
But
let's dial it back and get me to sort of the origin of it all. Like, what was the impetus? What kicked all this off?
it's what kicks. I mean, what started it basically was me coming out in the 1990s, and I saw a British film called Beautiful Thing, and as a young queer person, I saw a film that ended happily at the time, and which was very rare, and I wanted to understand why I was feeling so good about that film, and in doing so, I wanted to understand myself. So that kind of kickstarted the whole journey. Beautiful Thing, by Hetty MacDonald. It's a British film. It's almost like the Love Simon of that time. And in in the past year, when I was traveling with the film, and they compared, and people started talking about films similar to my film, Beautiful Thing came out, and everybody agreed it was a film that was so empowering and positive, that was much needed at a time when stories of AIDS were common, right, at the time. Yeah, so yeah, so fast forward 20 years later, I'm here because I wanted to understand why that film had such an effect on me, and in doing so, I understand myself better and people.
For
Sounds
sure.
very
Yeah.
holistic, but that's true. Yeah, and I just came from my first day of class teaching at Capilano University, and I see the power of films, like just in class, and how people question things because of film. So I know, I know why I continue to do films. It's because it's a tool for self-learning. Um, in a nutshell. Sorry, I'm rambling here,
No,
but
please.
that's
It's a
kind of
podcast, man. I encourage rambling, but I mean, I agree with you, man. That's absolutely right. And I mean, there was something about this because it just, at least for me, as the straight white guy who lives in the city, I like part of me appreciated just the fact that like there wasn't an issue. It wasn't sort of a message movie. It was very much driven by the characters. And I mean, I'm kind of curious for you, as you were putting all this together, like, was it easy to stay away from making it sort of a quote unquote like issue movie, or was it easier to just sort of focus on the characters? Because to me, and especially with the casting that you had, I really was engaged by sort of the struggle that all of these individuals were going through.
uh it was easy for me to focus in on the characters because each character was a facet of me, and Gorman as well, like, but I mean, I could speak about myself, like, I wonder about, uh why do we why do we not reach for the stars?
Hmm.
Because we've been conditioned to. Why do we settle? Because, we're lazy at times, right? So, like, these hard truths um are very interesting to me because, obviously, they have some value to how I interpret the world and understand myself. Like, sometimes we do selfish things to hurt people, but it makes us happy because we desire happiness. We desire love that's not being given back to us. So anyway, long story short is that I love getting into the minutia of the human condition and understanding the impact of intention and preservation on others, like just the interactions of people, relationships, basically. And all the other stuff about politics, about who we love and all that
Hmm.
stuff, that's secondary. Like, yeah, so that's secondary to me. I'm actually working on a straight coming of age film next with a Caucasian woman as the lead actress. So
There you go.
I'm excited because it's different for me, but it's still very familiar terrain, if that makes any sense.
No, and it does though, because it's one of those things. In watching your film, I appreciated that, like, relationships are complex. Family life isn't necessarily good or bad. It just kind of is and has all these ups and downs to it. There isn't sort of this one way or the other. It's just sort of experiencing life. And I mean, I think so much of that came through, I mean, in your two leads. Can you talk to me a little bit about finding these two young men to sort of be a part of this film, and also just, I mean, this might feel like a loaded question, but it definitely feels like both of these young men were very open to just sort of the realities of the now, and not sort of it being overtly sexual or overtly anything one way or the other. It was very much about just two people who had found each other at this moment in time.
Well, when I casted the film back in December, I kept a very open mind because I knew that I couldn't get a star I couldn't fly anybody in, and COVID was happening.
Right.
So, uh, you know, all I could do is just be open-minded and see who came in. And the approach that I had was, well, let's find the strongest lead, and then cast his love interest, and then cast the girlfriend, so you work from the center outwards, right? But the most important thing was finding um uh an actor who could carry the film, who had the charisma, who was able to be vulnerable and was curious and open. And I spent about a month and a half, and I found Cardi Wong to be that person. Um, and in addition, he was able to take direction well, and had range, so it was good. And then I found Chris Carson, who played Alex, to be equally convincing, but he was confident. He was the confident version of Jake that I was searching for. What I didn't know was that the two of them knew each other in the past, and they didn't tell me about it because they wanted it to be fair,
Right,
which
right.
is fine. But when I brought them in the chemistry read, yeah, they had a natural bromance with each other, very jokey in a way, and they were super comfortable with one another, to the point where I was like, um, there's some they're on the spectrum. I'm not quite sure what this. I'm not quite sure what their sexuality is. Not that it matters, but I really like what I'm seeing and feeling. So I thought, you know what? With COVID bubbles going on, I might as well just put them together. So, and yeah, and then it became, and then I learned that they were, I learned that they knew each other. So that was great. So yeah.
Well, and
So that's how I kind of with that.
and I mean, I think a lot of that trickled down as well because I mean, I thought the chemistry between Jake and Valerie, worked really well. And I mean, even the parents sort of hitting this crossroads and not being happy and in love with each other. There was a real sense of honesty because I mean, again, when you're watching a film like this or even a story like this, you can see when actors are playing the emotion or when they're experiencing the emotions. And it really felt like the people you had in these parts were very much about experiencing the moment and not trying to put on sort of a quote unquote show. It all played so very organically. Like, did that come through table reads, or was that just a question of, a little bit of luck finding the right person in the right time?
Actually, it's I wouldn't say it's luck. I come from a documentary background, so um, I, a couple of my first projects were documentaries, and I followed somebody for a year. And there's something marvelous about documenting someone's life and seeing reality unfold. The camera acts as a confessional booth in a way, right? And you pick up these qualities on screen, um, that you wouldn't get if you were to just watch somebody, without the monitor. So anyway, I trained myself to look for these qualities, like the why, basically.
Mm.
And in doing so, I love people watching, and in doing so, that's kind of how I helped. That's helped inform me of picking the right people, because I could see if somebody's is performative, if they're projecting rather than being in the moment. I guess if somebody is if somebody's being too cerebral about something, right, I could give them a note, such as, give them some business to do, and that often unlocks or unlearns what they've committed to, because they're so busy thinking about the next line. And so, you just have to give them something to do, because that just frees up that part of the brain, if that makes any sense.
No, it it
So
it, it, it
anyway,
does.
yeah.
But I mean, it's one of those
Yeah,
things.
so
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
no, 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 no. I was just, I don't know how much you want to talk about technique and process, but I use my documentary background, and then what I learned in my master's at UBC to identify if somebody's being in the moment, and if not, then how to work with them to get to that state. Period.
That does dovetail into my next question because obviously having a documentary background, you have an experience that's sort of the observational and looking at people and seeing how they react. But I'm kind of curious, especially with this film. And I mean, you do have an extensive history of doing not just documentary, like you said, but shorts as well. And I mean, why was this the one, or why was this the right time to sort of make the bigger leap to a narrative like feature length kind of project?
It had to do with the it had to do with the story and the amount of subplots. I fell in love with Gorman's script because of the way that he articulated these relationships, and uh and I had reached a point in my career where I had hit a glass ceiling with all these short films. They were mainly I was basically repeating many of the things that I've done in the past, and I was resolving the main relationship, and I was curious about how to interweave subplots
Mm,
in long form. And so like juggling that intrigued me. And again, it was a natural progression to my like curiosity about human relationships, because nothing happens in a vacuum.
of course.
Right. So um so with yeah, with long form, the challenge was how do how do you pick and choose um subplots to support or subvert the main plot and the main message. That was the challenge for me. And so yeah, I took great care. And I had help in the process. My editor, Mike Jackson, who is a Emmy nominated documentary director, helped me well, he provided some opinions, and there was, as a result, the film is much more enriched. Sorry if I'm mumbling. It's been a bit of a long day, so I'm I'm like yourself. I'm just
I
trying to
understand
be
you're a little
present.
punchy. I get it. No worries, man. But just to start putting a bow on this, because again, in watching the film, like I said, it's that observational style that struck me. And I mean, just seeing this culmination sort of come together and hearing you describe it, just about sort of the work you had done and working, putting it all together. I mean, it feels like it's a beautiful thing to me just to be able to see sort of that marriage, because nothing in this film to me was out of place or was not given sort of a real sort of intense amount of thought. And I mean, I'm kind of curious for you as a filmmaker and a storyteller, like was there something that you saw like back in the day as a young man where you kind of picked up on that style of filmmaking that made you want to get into this business and sort of explore those ideas?
I really like docu-style filmmaking because because you can get closer to the truth. So the ironic thing about my experience with documentaries was that um I I got I had to face people's egos, and that stopped me from getting to the truth from what I saw.
Yeah.
Like if somebody for example, like someone is dealing with depression but won't admit it, for example, right? And their ego was in the way, right? I just felt that I couldn't get to what I needed to tackle. So fiction provided me with an opportunity to get closer to the truth, and I really like docu-style filmmaking because it felt so authentic and yeah, truthful. And basically, I mean, is there a film that was there a film that really like hit me that I could think of? Uh that's a good question. I mean, I saw I like Spa Night, Andrew On Spa Night, which came out in 2015. That really hit me. But it's not necessarily docu style. Waves, which forgot the name of the filmmaker, which came out maybe 5 years ago about a shooting in
Oh
Florida, a
yeah,
black
yeah.
teen. I think you know what I mean, right?
I do. Yeah,
So
fantastic film.
yeah, pardon me.
No, it's a fantastic film.
Pardon me.
Waves. I love that
Yeah,
movie.
I agree with you. That was a fantastic film. Just the way that it was visualized, the way that everything was explored and came together was just fantastic. Like the camera as narrator, and then the performances. I felt that that what the director was offering was refreshing, and it felt authentic. So yeah. I'm just trying to think about what films like hooked me in when I was younger. John Grayson's Lilies was another film that came out around the same time as Beautiful Thing in 1996. That film struck me because because it was gender fluid and it was diverse. I'm not sure if you know about that film. It was dealing with prison inmates who put together a play to help one of their own to elicit a confession from a priest about a murder or tragedy in the past. It was
Mm.
a queer tragedy, and I just loved how beautiful John Grayson did in exploring non-binary. Sorry, he made all the roles gender fluid,
Right.
and one was so diverse, and it was such a hauntingly beautiful film. um yeah, that really struck me as a counterpoint to Beautiful Thing. So where
Well, Jason,
everyone
man,
was,
yeah,
yeah.
I think you've done something beautiful here with this film because I mean, again, as much as people may want to try to check the boxes of it being inclusive or representative or anything like that, at the end of the day, it's the humanity that is front and center with these characters and with this story. And I mean, at the end of the day, that's the important thing. And I mean, I think you've really done a beautiful piece of work here, and I can't wait for more and more people to see it.
Thank you so much, David. Yeah, I hope that this is I hope this is not the last time I make a film, and I have more opportunities. So
I certainly
I
hope not either, but man, just keep up the good work. And again, thank you for the time today.
all right, thank you.
And don't forget to visit our friends over at Bay Street Video for all your DVD, Blu-ray rental, or purchasing needs this summer, as they are still open for curbside and some mailing delivery as well. Over at 1172 Bay Street, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, you can give them a call at 416-964-9088. That's 416-964-9088. Or send them an email at baystreetvideoto@gmail.com for any of your DVD and Blu-ray needs.